So I'm a barbarian at heart, right? And so when I see something like this, I perceive it as an attack on us, right? I grew up in the West. I've been to Paris many times. I perceive it as an attack on us. So I want to attack back. That's my nature, right? And so they killed us. I want to kill them, right? Now, luckily, I hope I have a second part of my nature, which is, wait, let's think this through, right? And so, and it's an interesting moment in time because we don't know who did it right now because it's so early on. So
the police are even saying really fast they're not sure that the attacks are coordinated. I think that they're being overly safe
there. Oh, come on.
They seem to have been coordinated. But that's what I'm just saying. That's what the police are saying.
It's not a wild coincidence. Okay, no way. So let's assume for a second that it could be usually two sets of people do. They're always fundamentalists, but it's usually fundamentalist Muslims or some sort of right-wing zealots. It is in the U.S. oftentimes.
Right.
Most of the time, it's right-wing zealots in the U.S. It's the shooting of Jewish temples, community centers, black churches shot up, burned, yada, yada. But there are Muslim fundamentalists that attack here. In Europe, it's more usually Muslim fundamentalists.
Particularly in
right,
Paris as
but
well.
Again, in the case of Norway, there was the right-wing guy who killed all those people.
The coordinated nature of this and the fact that there's so many would yes, of course. Look, we don't know, and there's in a sense there's no reason to speculate. But this is the time when we're talking. So it would be surprising if there were right-wing extremists who had organized this.
Right,
that would be a new thing.
I tend to agree with you, of course, because we're looking at the history of the attacks that have happened in Europe, right? And so, but if it were right-wing fundamentalists, as has happened in the past, would anyone suggest we find out where they are and then bomb that area? No one would suggest that, right? I mean, we wouldn't think, okay, maybe they're near Cologne, right? A group of them. Let's go bomb Cologne, right? Or Marseille, or if they came from another country nearby, let's go bomb Stuttgart, right? We would never, never consider that.
And that's an interesting point too, because for example, with the Dylan Roof shooting, right? That was people were very quick to call that a hate crime, and it wasn't termed as a terrorist attack. And yet, in his manifesto, it was very clear that he satisfied the criteria for terrorism, for that crime as being a terrorist. Right. So the point that you're making is that yes, if it's a right-wing attack, it's tend to be it's a hate crime. If it's or
mental illness, and don't identify that it's right-wing at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But on the flip side, if it's anything that any sense of a Muslim with the Chattanooga shootings, right? It was we were very quick to attribute the fact that this individual was a Muslim and this is ISIS inspired. There's no indication he was just a mentally ill person that happened to be a Muslim. But we were very quick to identify that as terrorists, and therefore then flows your point of then we go in heavy and hard and we bomb.
And I think it's fairly obvious why we have the blinders that result in that weird double standard, is that if in Paris it turns out that it's Muslims, we'll say, okay, we're going to identify what country they came from or which expat group in Paris they came from, and that culture produced this. That culture allowed or encouraged a level of hate that leads to violence. Let's bomb it. The same thing is happening in our society that we're going to talk about later in the hour. 3 additional colleges have had threats against African-American students. Society, culture set up a level of hatred for African Americans. It's that it's our culture, and so we can't just bomb ourselves, we would say. But it's the blinders of not identifying the link between society and violent outcomes that is every bit as real in America as it is in other countries.
So, and I want to be clear about this, right? We're not trying to blame people. We're trying to figure out what's the smart strategy so that we don't have this again, right? So we can protect ourselves. So if we found out that it's a right-wing group out of Marseille or a left-wing group, we don't know who it is, right? Make up something, right? But left-wing groups have not done attacks like this really in Europe or the U.S. That's why we're using a possible right-wing zealot group, right? Again, Ben's point, don't go crazy. We think it's probably Muslim fundamentalists because that's what's happened in the past. But if it was a right-wing group out of Marseille, right, no one in their right mind would say, let's go bomb Marseille, right, as I was saying earlier. So they would think that was fundamentally stupid. Why the hell would you punish other people in Marseille for the crimes of these zealots that had nothing to do with everyone else in Marseille? That would be insane. You would be locked away if you suggested bombing the citizens of that city, right?
Or even cracking down on their rights and liberties in that country, or whatever other sort of social legal sanctions you would have against them.
Right. If that is insane, perhaps it's also equally insane if we suggest bombing as the answer to stopping this in a different country. Oh, they were inspired by, or maybe they were literally from ISIS, right? So let's go bomb Damascus. But wait, shouldn't you say the same thing? What the hell did the people of Damascus do,
look, I think
right?
What's critical for me at least, what has helped me to sort of understand how we react differently to this, and it just goes to the ultimate meaninglessness of what the word terrorism has become. It's how this makes us feel is how we react. And we feel differently when people like us are killed. Now, for those of us who are, and there are gradations of being open. There's terrorist attack literally every day in Syria and or Iraq, right? Every day, people go to buy fruit and they get blown up, right? Or, 5 times a week, all the time, right? And that's terrorism. And I suppose it gets reported as terrorism, but we don't really feel it as I don't really feel it as terrorism. And that is a gigantic shortcoming in my soul. But it's how I am. But I react
fundamental
differently
to humanity, I would say.
Right, probably. I hope so. I hope I'm not, I hope there's not something seriously wrong with me.
Not that particular
But if you
thing.
personalize it, as soon as I see a mom crying, then it starts to change.
Yeah.
Right? That's why it's so critical to see that stuff, I think, because I think we have to feel. Here, because it's the West and because they're an ally and because we think of Parisians as like us, we react differently. I think that we mostly felt that way, many of us, about Dylan Roof, because although these people were black and obviously therefore not specifically like me, to me that was like, they're Americans. These people are like me. I lived in Charleston. I've been in that church. You have whatever. You draw your connection to it. But it is obviously there's a significant flaw if we throw around the word terrorism and have it mean something. Because when we say terrorism, it means something because we respond to terrorism differently than we respond to a hate crime. But if we're basing it on this sort of what would appear to be random emotional reaction that the rest of us have, it just goes to your point. Our reactions to it are insane. We have to be smart about how to respond to things like that.
So I hope that the authorities in France today are thinking not, okay, who do we kill, right? We'll get to that.
Don't worry.
Yeah, believe me.
there's time.
We'll kill some people.
Right. But they sit down and think, how in the world do we solve this? Who did this? Who put them up to it? And how did they orchestrate this? We've got to put all of our energy into that first and then figure out how do we get them, right? And because please don't be blind in your anger. We're all angry, but it doesn't help. It hurts. It hurts other innocent people, which then turn against you and then hurts yourself again. Yeah. So in this moment, feeling rage is perfectly normal. But what we should be doing is thinking, how do we figure out how to solve this first so that we can have an answer that stops it?
Because they don't, whoever did this doesn't want there to be a thoughtful, fairly time-consuming, smart response. I mean, the point of terrorism and what I feel today and what I'm sure many other people is some degree of fear. Like they went to dinner. These people went to a concert. And they went to dinner and they got shot and they're dead and their lives are ruined forever for the survivors and the people whose family. And so it works. You're afraid.
Sure.
So yeah. Well, that's all. That's it.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, to Elliot's comparison to Dylan Roof, right? So Dylan Roof wanted to start a race war, right? So that he's a terrorist by the conventional definition because he did it for a political reason and he wanted to inspire fear in blacks. He wanted them to strike back. He wanted everybody to strike back disproportionately so that it would start, then the whites would have to strike back and it would start a race war. So Dylan Roof is not that different from ISIS in that sense because ISIS also wants a disproportionate reaction because the more you bomb Ramadi and Fallujah and their bases, the more all of the people that live there, not just them, but the larger population goes, well, I guess they're attacking me, so I guess America or France or the West has declared war on me, not on ISIS, so I guess I'm going to join ISIS in their war against them. And ISIS thinks, mission accomplished. Yeah. So don't help the Dylan Roofs of the world. Don't help the ISIS of the world. Let's be smart. And once we figured out who did it, believe me, I'm on your side. Let's go get them.
And I'm sure that obviously, as I said at the beginning of this, we don't have much information. It's still coming out right now. By Monday, I'm sure that we'll have a much better idea of what happened.
But go get him because these are people, go get him as in the prosecution of a crime, right? Or, I don't mean arrest him. I don't mind killing him. Nobody minds killing him, you know. But I mean, like what you just said in a sense, proves your initial point. Like, okay, go get them. Like where? But they'll be somewhere else. They're not going to. I'm all for going to get them. If
that's
that
a great question. Let's take the time to dive into that question. Okay, so how do we get the guys who did the Paris attacks once we figure out who it is, right? So I don't mean like, okay, we figured out it's ISIS and that particular branch came from Ramadi. Let's bomb the crap out of Ramadi. No, of course not. Then you're going to have all the counterproductive things. You're going to turn those people against you. You've started a bigger war, and there's going to be more bombings. Okay, do I mean like the Republicans will say here in the U.S., like, oh, this is not a criminal matter. You shouldn't just try to get arrest warrants, right? Okay, I mean, what do you want me to do? You want me to find the guy and then what, decapitate him on the spot, right? The way I frame it is, let's bring them to justice. So that means if I have found who it is that's done it, I'm going to go get the guy, meaning I'm going to arrest him. If he fires, gone, right?
So dead or alive.
Of course, then you unleash, right? But you unleash on them, right? Okay, so they're in a tough spot. So this is not easy, right? So it turns out the guys who ordered it, not the guys who carried out, but ordered it, are in Ramadi. So Jesus Christ, what are you going to do? You can't just go and try to arrest them, right? And you can't bomb Ramadi because you're going to start a bigger war. You're going to give them what they wanted, right? Which is counterproductive to our interests. Going to lead to more bombings in Paris, London, U.S., etc. Okay, but that's what we have special forces for. So I think, and so this is an interesting position for a progressive to take, because I think that in conventional wisdom, like, oh, progressives don't want to use force. No. We want to use smart force, right? And so a bombing is dumb, because then you hit civilians, you hit innocent people, and you turn them against you. Special forces oftentimes get the job done surgically. They did it with bin Laden. We captured the top terrorist in Somalia. We swooped in, got him, swooped back out. It was an amazing job, and I commended that greatly. So do you risk more special forces lives if you drop them, for example, in the middle of Ramadi? Of course you do. I'm not unaware of that. But they're special forces, right? That's their job. If we're not going to use them for that, well, then don't have them and just have a bunch of bombs and then live with the fact that we're going to be in a perpetual state of war as we continue a cycle of violence. Their innocence, our innocence, their innocence, our innocence. I don't want that. That's why we have special forces. Drop them in, do the best you can. If it didn't work, drop them in again. And so, okay, you say, well, that you're going to lose some people. We lost a hell of a lot more troops in Iraq when we did a mass invasion, and we lost, 5,000 guys, let alone all
the danger of drones and bombing, of course, is that you don't have to make those hard decisions, and I think that ends up hurting us. So I mean, I agree with you. I think we're likely, who knows, but we're likely headed to where that smart decision will be an acknowledgement. We got to have whatever it is, 500,000 people there, ready to act almost like a military police force. If you were like, these are criminals, they're there, and then we got to go get them.
Yeah,
because we know the Iraqi army's not going to get them.
Yeah. So look, I don't need them stationed on the ground at 24/7. Turkey's an ally. It's not that long a flight from Turkey to Ramadi, right?
Sure.
So, and I'm making up Ramadi, of course, in this hypothetical. You bring him in, you bring him out. It's super dangerous. I'm not unaware of the dangers. Oh, well, I'm not going to risk a single American life. No, but you're risking a hell of a lot more American lives and French lives when you do the dumb bombing.